do what needs done?
Well, I mean, what they could possibly say, we're going to require a federal moratorium on all horizontal drilling until we can do a study on whether. I don't think that'll happen, primarily because Ohio is a key state for presidential elections, and next year is a presidential election year. Although, well, he shouldn't show good sense on the XL pipeline, but those are some of the worries. And Governor Daniels over
shutting down coal the way they have.
Yes, exactly. And coal is not our enemy. I mean, coal is still an important part of Ohio. 80% of all the electricity generated in the state is generated by coal. What are you going to replace that with? I mean, natural gas could eventually do some of that, but in the I liked Governor Daniels in Indiana a couple months ago. I loved his characterization of the EPA. He said it was the Employment Prevention Agency. So,
Just real quick talking about windmills. My best friend lives out in Ohio, Western Ohio, near Fort Wayne, but in the boondocks out there. She's got this wind farm next to her. Their roads have been destroyed putting up those things, and she hears those things running day and night.
yeah, those things are huge, and they are noisy, and you're probably talking about Van Wert County. That's where they're, yeah.
Yes.
You talk about this horizontal drilling. Are those drill bits, are they being tracked? Are they GPS tracked? Is there a website someone can go to see where these drill bits are going? You know, if you sink a well on one person's property, but then you go horizontally for a while, as she was pointing out, you're going under a lot of other homes, some of whom may have in the onset gotten together and worked out something. But what's to keep it from going under a whole lot of homes that haven't worked out anything and don't even know you're there?
Well, that would be illegal, and you'd go to jail.
Your money says in God we trust. Everybody else is a suspect.
Yeah.
Right? So I want to know, how do we know where those bits are going?
Well, you can go again to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Mineral Resources, Division of Oil and Gas. They have the mapping. You can access the site and get the mapping. It's public knowledge on all the mapping of where the wells are. And a lot of that you can also get through the Ohio One Call system. If you got a farmer out there with a backhoe, we got to protect not just those wells, but other pipelines that are in existence. So there is the availability of where these are located are there in a couple different places. It's available to the public.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the long-term effects of economic lives. The short-term obviously sounds wonderful as far as the people getting the money from leases and the construction and all the related, the next 8 to 10 years sound fantastic. Are there any steps being made to protect or to enable, like, Ohio businesses and communities and individuals? I look at a worldwide economy where, America used to be here and everyone else was down, and then with everything leveling out, we're going the wrong way, and everyone else is getting better. And I've heard why that's driving oil prices up, because other countries are demanding it more because they're making the money that we used to, et cetera. And I don't want to get into that whole conversation. Is there anything being put into place to possibly protect, enable, assist Ohio companies to get, preferred access to some of the fuels and or the individuals of our state to have access? Let's say 15 years or 20 years down the road, well, my daughter's, kind of where I'm at, and all of a sudden, if the economy and the jobs keep going the way they're going, the boom will be gone, and the rest of the world will have a better demand, and all this oil and gas will be going somewhere else, and my kids won't be able to afford it. Is that too big of a question?
No, I think I understand. The oil of the Utica Shale, if, again, the projections are correct or near correct, you're talking probably 60 to 70 years of production, and even maybe beyond that, depending on what we find in the western portion of the state. In terms of natural gas, you're talking 200, 250 years, and God knows what will happen in 250 years. I mean, just in my lifetime, and I'm older than dirt. I mean, when I was a kid, we used to think that Dick Tracy watch thing was a fantasy. Now look what you can do on your telephone. So God knows what will come up in 250 years. But I don't see this going away. And I see that if we develop more products, we get more chemical facilities, more plastic companies moving into the state. I think you're looking long term. Hopefully your daughter's future will be secure well into her kid's future.
Hi. You know, I'm in the trucking business, and currently we have a great deal of activity going up into Williston, North Dakota. Of course, you know, the drilling that's going on. It's been going on for a while. People don't realize that. The enormity of that growth is impacting that area. My question is, some of the things that I've learned about oil and the issues that are challenging this country has to do with storage and distribution, transportation of oil, to get it to the refinery to get it. Now just to give a clarity of picture here, as you see drilling going on in southeast Ohio and around the state, what's going to happen to the oil when it comes out of the ground if you can't distribute it? How do you distribute it? How do you store it until it needs to be moved to a refinery? What's the plan on that end of it? Because I think people are going to be asking those questions because is it going to be all put on trucks and tankers and then held off and wait until the refinery can take it? What's the plan on that end of it? The environmentalists and the communities will be asking those questions, and we need to be able to answer that.
Yeah, that's a great question, because the biggest problem facing us in the industry is the infrastructure, and how you can bring it out of the ground, then where do you take it? How do you get it there? So what we're going to need is pipelines. And as you all know, that drives environmentalists crazy, although I think they're nuts. I mean, would you rather have not that I want to hurt your business, but would you rather have 200 tanker trucks driving down the road every day, or a pipeline under the ground taking it? I mean, several years ago, we had a battle with the Catlettsburg, Kentucky facility. We were going to build a pipeline to Columbus, up through the Hocking Hills. It should have taken about 8 months and about $80 million, and it took 5 years and $800 million because of all the lawsuits filed by rich people in Columbus who had summer homes in the Hocking Hills. And I said at the time, once this is going to happen, and when it does, you'll never hear about that pipeline again. And that was 10 years ago. And I guarantee you, if you ask anybody in Columbus today, hey, what about that Cardinal pipeline? Isn't that dangerous? They'll look at you like, what? What are you talking about? What pipeline? So pipelines are the answer. And it's not all going to stay in Ohio. I mean, I'm not going to mislead you. There's enough that's going to go up to Pennsylvania, upstate New York. It'll go over to Louisville, Kentucky, where there's a large refinery. So the problem we face, though, is exactly the one you brought up. Is we can get it out of the ground, but we got to have a place to take it, and that's what we're working on.
Well, I just want to mention this because I am the councilman for the most northern city in Medina County, and traveling along our northern border is Buckeye Pipeline,
Right.
which travels underneath, right next to Boston Road. Has been there for a long time. The only impact it ever has is whenever they've had to do a maintenance of some kind, which I had to deal with early on in my career as a politician. But and of course the challenge that whenever we deal with the road changes over there, we're going to have to move, that pipeline has to be moved because of the location and proximity to the road. People don't know it though. Most people who have lived there all these years have never realized that approximately 18 feet underground is a transmission line that goes to Brecksville. But it limits itself, and that's the problem we're running into. The other thing I want to mention is you mentioned about the Texas license plates. Let's not be naive about this. Okay, they're Texas license plates, but where are those tax dollars going to be paid while they're working in the state of Ohio, increasing our economy until we get our own people working? Believe me, I got a lot of Ohioans that are leaving and going to North Dakota, and that's because that's where the money is. It might be migratory, but it's a fact. It increases the economy, it strengthens the state's employment base, and a man in the business of moving heavy equipment and machinery, I'm certainly not disappointed in seeing any production that benefits my business.
Well, you're exactly right. They have to live somewhere. They're paying rent, hotels, rent, home, apartments. They have to eat. They have to buy clothes. They have to do laundry. All that. I hate to be a spoil sport, but maybe one or two more questions because I'll give it to her because Rebecca needs to get back to Cincinnati, Ohio, and my wife is spending my money in New York City, and I've got a little dog that I left at home last night, and I need to get to, and I'm also a basketball coach for Upper Arlington and Columbus, so maybe one or two questions. That'd be all right.
I just wanted to, on the last one about the people coming into the state, actually people coming into Ohio would be a good thing. Maybe we'll get a couple of those congressional seats back that we're losing.
Yeah. People forget that there are chemicals in the ground naturally. And I have a question, the difference between nitro and fracking. Where years ago...
You're talking about nitroglycerin?
Yeah.
Yeah, nitroglycerin just blew the hell out of something.
Yeah. They use nitro in diesel?
No.
It's calorie well.
No, we don't use nitro at all.
Okay.
No.
We've had tremors over in this area over my lifetime. Earthquake, very light one. We also had a portable rig drilling in Litchfield about 20 years ago. Those drillers cleaned up their act when they were done, and it was all over. Of course, there was a lot of static at the same time. And one thing a lot of people don't know about or think about. During World War II, the German submarines in the Gulf of Mexico were blowing the hell out of our oil boats going to the East Coast. Our national government built a pipeline from the East Coast to Texas. And that eliminated part of the problem. Probably most people here don't know that, but that's a fact.
Yeah, in World War II, actually, they built the Alaska Pipeline Alcon from Alaska to the 48 continental state, did it in 6 months. Didn't have to do environmental impact statements. There wasn't environmental stuff, but that's exactly right. And by the way, the last 2 years of World War II, Adolf Hitler's entire mechanized army was coal gasification. They had no oil. That was shut off from. So there's a lot of ways to move.
Real quick, how long does it take to build a refinery, and how long does it take to do like a pipeline?
Well, that question comes up all the time on the gas price issue. Well, geez, you guys are purposely shutting down refineries just to drive up the price. Fact of the matter is, we're producing more gasoline today, almost twice as much, with half the refineries that we did in the 1960s. And to build a refinery, it's not going to happen because it's the NIMBY is number one, not in my backyard. Everybody says we want it, but they don't want it in their backyard. And you'll never get the state, local, and federal permits. That'd take you 20 years just to get through that morass. But there's just really no need for it right now. With the CAFE standards coming on board, and with the alternative fuels that are coming on board, and with the mandates the federal government sets on that by 2022 a certain percentage of fuel has to be renewable fuels, gasoline demand will stay static, and that's what we're seeing now. I mean, you've got oil at $98 a barrel, but gas prices you haven't seen going up to $394. They've been staying pretty steady between $309 and $329. And that's because the demand worldwide, and particularly Europe, is just not there. And gasoline is traded in American dollars. So the dollar right now is strong as the euro is weak. So that keeps gas prices low. When the dollar goes down, that's when you buy. When the dollar is weak to the euro, that's when you're going to see prices increase.
What's the last one?
Just real quickly to add to what Adam was saying, I have a little place down in Belmont County, down on Piedmont Lake, if you know where that is, and that area obviously hit real hard. But I have a water well, and had an opportunity to really speak with one of the testing laboratories, and he really made it clear to me that these companies, in order to do business at all, have to do baseline studies before they ever get started. And so all those water wells in a whole area surrounding wherever the fracking is going to be happening are all tested before and afterwards, and it is carefully measured. Another thing, I used to be in the oil industry myself and sold explosion-proof boxes. So I got around quite a bit and to refineries. I was in St. Croix, and one of the interesting things that people don't realize is one of the largest refineries in the Western Hemisphere is over in that neck of the woods. You can go up to north of Seattle and go to the refineries, and I wouldn't encourage you to eat off the ground, but I'll tell you, they're some of the cleanest refineries. I couldn't believe how clean a refinery could be. As opposed to going down to Texas and New Orleans, those are some fairly nasty environments, but it can be done right. And I wish they would allow us to build more refineries and do it the way we can do it today.
I agree. Let me just leave you with this, because I know a lot of your focuses on you over the years in these groups have been taxes and government waste, government spending. First of all, I want to thank you all for having us here. But secondly, I want to leave you with a story. There was an old couple in Washington County where I grew up, farmers. Every year they'd go to the county fair, and there was this guy who had a triplane, and he charged $5 a ride. And every year the gentleman would tell his wife, sure would like to go on that triplane. And his wife would say, well, honey, $5 is $5. We just can't afford it. Every year, next year he'd get in, I sure would like to go on a ride in that plane. And she'd say, $5 is $5. Finally, the guy that ran the triplane got tired of hearing this, so he looked at him and he said, you know what? I'm going to take both of you up and I'm going to give you a ride. But if I hear one peep out of either one of you during this ride, I'm going to charge you each $5. So they agreed. So he takes off, and he's got the gentleman sitting behind him, the wife sitting behind him. He's doing loop-de-loops, and he's doing all this stuff, everything he can to get a scream out of these folks. Not a peep, nothing. So he lands the airplane, he gets out, and he turns to the old man, and he said, I got to give it to you. He said, I thought for sure that I'd hear something after all that. And the guy looked at him and he said, well, when Martha fell out of the plane, I was going to say something, $5 is $5. If government would watch their money as closely as Martha did, we'd be better off. Again, thank you all so very much, and we're available for you.
Thank you so much, Terry and Rebecca, for coming and enlightening us. It sounds like there's a lot more questions, and a lot of people in Medina would probably be interested in having them back and maybe doing a town hall. So if anyone would like to help organize that, let us know. I think it's necessary. I really do.
Lisa.
Now, I'd like to have, we have a few announcements. Nancy, did you have anything, Central Committee or anything like that you'd like to touch on?
Oh, I guess I'll make some sort of announcement. I want to thank all of you who applied to be Central Committeemen. I think petitions for Central Committee are to be certified next week. So we'll know if you're going to be on the ballot or not for your Central Committee. So I want to thank everybody that stepped up to the plate, because it's important to represent your precincts. I do understand that a bill has been introduced in the House to combine the two primaries next year and have a May primary rather than the two. You know, it hasn't had any committee hearings, it's barely been introduced. I do not know at this point if it would affect us as Central Committeemen, because the last word that came down, you know, you had to file last week. So, but they can always change anything they want to change. But right now, those who filed last week will find out if you've been certified next week.
Thank you, Nancy. And also Chris Duran, our friend from Lorraine County. We've got some name tags, and she can tell you a little bit about what's going on here.
No,
Just
it's
that
your membership.
Okay.
Whoever's paid and wants to pick up a name tag.
Okay, thanks. And also Scott has a donation bucket. As you know, we do work on donations and it helps us get the word out. And other than that, I just want to thank everybody for coming and spending this Saturday morning with us. Thank you.